Hey everyone, I've got a story for you tonight that still chills me to the bone every time I think about it. It's a true story that happened to me a few years ago, and it's something that I'll never be able to forget. It all started when I moved to a small town in the Midwest. I was looking for a fresh start, a new beginning. I found a quaint little house on the edge of town, surrounded by thick woods. It was perfect, or so I thought. The first few weeks were uneventful. I spent my days unpacking, getting to know the neighbors, and settling into my new job. But then, strange things started happening. One night, I was lying in bed, just about to fall asleep, when I heard a soft scratching noise coming from the wall behind my headboard. I thought it might be mice, so I ignored it. But the scratching continued, night after night, getting louder and more insistent. It sounded like something, or someone, was trying to get out. I mentioned it to my neighbor, Mrs. Wilkins, an elderly woman who had lived in the town her whole life. Her face went pale, and she looked at me with wide, fearful eyes. She told me that my house had a dark history. Years ago, a family had lived there, mother, father, and their young daughter. The father was a cruel man, prone to violent outbursts. One night, in a fit of rage, he murdered his wife and daughter, then disappeared without a trace. The police never found him, and the house had been abandoned ever since. I tried to brush off her story, telling myself it was just an old wives' tale. But the noises in the walls continued. Then, one night, I woke up to the feeling of something cold and heavy pressing down on my chest. I opened my eyes, and there, standing at the foot of my bed, was the figure of a little girl. She was pale, almost translucent, with long dark hair and wide, empty eyes. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. She just stood there, staring at me with those hollow eyes, her mouth moving as if she was trying to speak, but no sound came out. Finally, she vanished, and I could breathe again. Terrified, I decided to do some research on the house. I spent hours at the local library, digging through old newspapers and town records. I found an article about the murders. The little girl's name was Emily, and she was only 8 years old when she was killed. There were photos of the family, and my blood ran cold when I saw Emily's face. She was the girl I had seen in my room. Desperate for answers, I reached out to a local paranormal investigator. He agreed to come to the house and see if he could make contact with Emily. That night, we set up cameras and recording equipment in my bedroom. As we waited in the dark, the temperature dropped, and the air grew heavy. Suddenly, the scratching started again, louder than ever. The investigator began asking questions, trying to communicate with Emily. We heard nothing at first, but then a voice came through the recorder, faint but clear, "Help me." My heart pounded in my chest as the investigator continued to ask questions. Emily told us, through the recordings, that she was trapped, unable to move on because her father was still there, still angry and violent, holding her in the house. She needed our help to be free. The investigator performed a cleansing ritual, trying to banish the angry spirit of Emily's father. The air grew colder, and the house shook as if in protest. But finally, after what felt like hours, the shaking stopped, and the temperature returned to normal. The investigator told me that Emily was free, that she had moved on. The house felt different, lighter. The scratching in the walls stopped, and I never saw Emily again. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear faint whispers, as if Emily is thanking me for helping her. And every time I walk by the spot where her father had hidden their bodies, now a patch of newly grown grass in the backyard, I feel a chill run down my spine. So, if you ever find yourself in a small town, living in an old house with a dark history, be careful. You never know what, or who, might still be lingering, waiting for someone to help them find peace.